Welcome to the 2020 Honda NHL All-Star Weekend in St. Louis. What a year it has been for the city and the Blues organization. Not that anyone here needs a reminder, but as the Blues went from last place in January a year ago to the Stanley Cup last June, it has been an incredible ride for everyone, particularly the people in this city. My guess is that no one in St. Louis will ever get Gloria out of their head, and I think everybody has a smile when they think about Layla and the impact she had on the Blues and on the city. The impact of this franchise continues to grow both on and off the ice, and it's incredible. This building, the Enterprise Center, has never looked better following the $150 million renovation that was completed this past summer. And every single Blues game for this season was sold out before opening night. Interestingly enough, as it relates to this weekend, the pre-sale for the Fan Fest set a record, and I believe over 30,000 tickets were sold. All of this is a credit to Tom Stillman and his partners in the local ownership group. It's also a credit to Chris Zimmerman and, of course, Doug Armstrong, Craig Berube, and the Blues players. Not to mention, we also get to be in the hometown of our longtime partner, Enterprise, and we're in the hometown of Anheuser-Busch, with whom we recently renewed our association. Put that all together, it makes for a great All-Star weekend, and as they say, it's all good. So what can we expect over the next few days? This evening, we will witness the 2020 NHL All-Star Skills presented by New Amsterdam Vodka, and this promises to be an event unlike any that the league has previously hosted. Everyone will, of course, remember last year's Bridgestone NHL Fastest Skater competition, which included Kendall Coyne Schofield's great performance. Well, this year we think we've taken it up a notch. We're excited about the Elite Women's 3-on-3 presented by Adidas. Besides the Olympics, this is probably one of the most high-profile events for the women's game. Four legends, Cassie Campbell-Pascal, Cami Granato, Angela Ruggiero, and Haley Wickenhauser, gave us input as to who we should choose for the best players in the world to compete in this event. And we are thrilled to give the women this spotlight. We know we're going to see a great exercise and display of skill. It should be very entertaining. This is, of course, the latest installment of the Canada-USA rivalry that has produced incredible hockey over the last 20 years. And given that national pride is once again on the line, in addition to the honorarium that each player is receiving for their participation, the winning team will garner a larger share of the NHL's $100,000 donation to girls hockey for either Hockey Canada or USA Hockey. Right after the 3-on-3 for the women will be the new Gatorade Shooting Star event. It should be fun, but it is novel and should be pretty unpredictable. And while we're enjoying all of this year's festivities, I want to talk about next year for a moment. I am pleased and excited to announce, and many of you will now officially know, that the Florida Panthers will host the 2021 All-Star Game at BB&T Center in Florida. We are in discussions with the Players Association about giving a distinct international flavor to next year's All-Star Game, but more detail will come at a later date for that. Before taking questions, I want to take a few minutes to address some of the league's key priorities this season. One, I want to start with where we left off at the Board of Governors meetings in December. Since then, we've made progress on a number of initiatives that we announced there, and we've clearly defined our goals for where we'd like to be as some of these programs take shape. An element of my message that day, which extends beyond policy and discipline, was a promise to develop tools, resources, and educational experiences. As was often quoted, I mentioned the hotline, and we are working on that, and we've made some progress to date. Deputy Commissioner Bill Daley, Executive Vice President Kim Davis, and other senior leaders at the NHL have led interviews and heard proposals from numerous top consultants in the industry who provide whistleblower capabilities. We are moving forward to build a platform with an independent, recognized global leader in ethics advisory and operations work. This platform will allow for reports to be made both confidentially and anonymously, or for attribution, by phone or digitally, and it will be accessible in multiple languages. To develop this in a way that is secure, trusted, and most importantly effective takes time, and we are considering the many nuances as they relate to data privacy and security, communication, division of responsibilities, and the other myriad of things that go into such a program. We expect it to be fully operational within a few months, and in the meantime, we have retained an independent firm to investigate issues that have already been brought to light. That process is ongoing. Ultimately, our vision is for this platform to stand as the best-in-class ethics reporting experience. We will continue to be transparent in the steps we are taking to improve and pledge to the hockey community and beyond that we are steadfast in our commitment to ensure that this game provides a safe working environment that is welcoming for all. Additionally, the framework is now in place for an Executive Inclusion Council that will oversee diversity and inclusion efforts at both the league and the club levels. And this is something that I will chair along with Kim Pegula of the Buffalo Sabres, and we are thrilled to have Kim's participation. In tandem with this committee, we are forming parallel groups that will enable us to influence diversity and inclusion efforts throughout the hockey ecosystem, from fans to players and youth hockey participants, and anybody who touches our game. We have begun formulating these groups, and they will all be fully operational by the summer. We continue to evaluate proposals for the detailed training that all club personnel, coaches, GMs, assistant GMs, and other executives will take, and that is something that we believe will be certainly in effect for next season. Possibly we'll have it done so we can conduct some of these programs by the draft, worst case just before training camp. Kim Davis's team and our senior executives at the league will be working with the Coaches Association and the Players Association on all of these steps, and obviously there will be more to come. Our message has not changed, but it's worth repeating. Hockey should provide a safe environment for everyone, and we are going to make sure that that is the case. That's at least one reason that as part of this All-Star Weekend, we held an event in Ferguson earlier today to highlight Willie O'Ree's trailblazing role, not only as a pioneer on the ice, but in influencing young people off the ice. The event also included our Black Hockey History Museum truck, which is on tour to 14 cities across North America. Ultimately, Willie couldn't join us here this weekend because he's a little under the weather, but we miss him and we wish him a very speedy recovery. Yesterday, in partnership with the Blues, we unveiled our All-Star Legacy project, a new 3-on-3 developmental league for girls at the new Centene Community Ice Center. Our clubs, our players, and our fans are passionate about efforts like these, and it's important that we get to highlight them during our All-Star celebration. We are also, of course, recognizing this weekend the players who have made such an outstanding contribution to our season so far. With respect to the game, simply stated, it has never been better. The skill that is on display every night for our fans, along with the unpredictability of our games and what will unfold over the next 4 months, are why we have extraordinary competitive balance, the best in all of sports, and it's why we think we are the most entertaining. We continue to see goal scoring at just over 6 goals per game. That's the second consecutive season and the first time in 25 years that this has happened. The 4- and 5-goal comeback wins so far this season are already tied for the most ever for an entire season. The top 4 scorers in the league are all aged 24 or younger, and I believe 7 of the top 10 scorers are either 25 or 24 or younger. Multi-goal comeback wins in the third period are an all-time high, and 3-goal comeback wins in the third period are tied for the most ever at this stage of the season. The top 5 teams in the Pacific Division are separated by 1 point, making the first time in the post-expansion era that the top 5 teams in a division have all been within 1 point of each other past the halfway mark of a season. One additional data point, you've often heard me say our pace of play is the best in sports, and this season again highlights that. Our average time for a regulation game is 2 hours and 27 minutes, 3 minutes faster than last year. The pace of play has certainly been enhanced by the new rules that we put into effect for video replay. Simply, there are fewer replays. Coaches are challenging significantly fewer plays, 34% fewer than last season at this time, despite more types of calls being reviewable. And when they are challenging, they are getting them right far more often, 60% of the time, as opposed to the previous all-time high of 42%. This means there are seeing fewer frivolous challenges. Our approach is consistent with being a leader in bringing sports and technology closer together. Along those lines, puck and player tracking will be used tonight and tomorrow night in conjunction with our broadcast partner. Tracking system will be up and running in the arenas of all 16 teams that make the playoffs this season and all arenas league-wide for the 2021 season. This will give our fans a new look into the game and our broadcasters yet another way to tell stories. Fans will be able to watch the Stanley Cup playoffs this year and all games next year in a way that years ago nobody could have imagined. Also, this weekend, we will be utilizing digitally enhanced dashboards. This may not be the most exciting announcement, but it is a significant innovation in our business. These dashboards will allow broadcasts to be customized, and we can change ads throughout the game. And considering our media presence in multiple countries and multiple languages, this is an important step. This technology represents new ways to maximize revenue for the league and our clubs and our broadcast partners. It looks better on television, allows for more engagement with fans, and presents no change to the look or atmosphere in the arena. And we look forward to deploying this technology more in the future. Across the league this season, our digital assets are performing extraordinarily well. To date this season, we've generated over 1 billion video streams and that's a 30% year-over-year increase across all of our platforms. There are obviously highlights that are garnering attention and causing a surge, whether or not it's Pekka Rinne's goalie goal, Andrei Shvetsnikov or Philip Forsberg's lacrosse goals, Connor McDavid on a nightly basis, and even though it's not exactly hockey-related, pig racing in Dallas at the Winter Classic. Gets a lot of views. Seemingly every night brings a new highlight, which is a good explanation for the strength our TV partners are seeing in ratings both in the U.S. and Canada. Hockey Night in Canada is up over 2% compared to last season, and the Winnipeg-Toronto game earlier this month was the most watched Wednesday night game on Sportsnet since 2014. In the United States, games on NBC Sportsnet are up 8%. And I know in addition to this information, you've probably got a few questions, which I'll get to. So I will conclude by saying that we come out of the All-Star break with an incredible stretch run before us. We'll see another outdoor game on February 15th at the Air Force Academy in Colorado Springs. No doubt teams will be battling hard for playoff position, and as we learned last year, it is impossible to predict what is going to happen. Thank you once again to the Blues fans, and the City of St. Louis for the incredible hospitality and welcome that we're experiencing here. And I am happy to take your questions, and I've got Bill Daly and other senior staff here as well. So let's do it.
So if you just raise your hand, and we'll get a microphone over to you.
You look familiar.
I'm just wondering, what's the significance for you of the puck and player tracking, and what do you expect it will do for the league?
Well, it'll be, as a fan and a viewer, what you want it to be. You'll be able to watch the game as you've always watched it traditionally, if that's what you want. There'll be broadcast enhancements that the broadcasters can use either on the primary screen or on secondary screens, and you'll see some of that this weekend as well. And there'll be more data than ever before. I believe the players will generate something like 200 data points a second, and the puck 2,000 data points a second. So in terms of getting inside the game, telling stories, as a fan, delving in to get what you're interested in, you're going to be able to do more things than ever before and even imaginable.
Scott over here on the right.
Gary, Scott Burnside, The Athletic. Since the Board of Governors meeting in California, have you had calls? Have you had reports come in? Are there new investigations that you have undertaken? And if you have, can you describe them, or how would you characterize them?
There have been a couple of incidents alleged that have gotten attention, whether it's a tweet that somebody put up anonymously or a similar type incident, but we take a look at everything. Some you can try to substantiate, some you don't know if there's anything to it at all, but there hasn't been a rush or rash of things that have come out that have been getting a tremendous amount of attention. Bill, where are you? Do I have that right?
Bill's over here.
Yeah.
That's right. I mean, obviously, what we announced at the board meeting, there, have some people have followed up, and there have been some things reported to us which we're following up on.
Yep.
Nothing like groundbreaking.
Over here on the right.
Laura Albanese from New York Newsday. I was just wondering if you'd given any more consideration to the Nassau County Executive's request to have the Islanders play at the Coliseum next year.
I sent the Nassau County Executive a letter back. It's a little premature at this point to decide what we're doing next season with the Islanders and where they're going to play.
Is there any further decision about their playoff games if they do make it?
We haven't done that yet either. And it's not an easy issue because Nassau Coliseum is not a major league facility. And if the Islanders were to have a deep playoff run, based on the press of media and the seating capacity and the facilities available, it could provide us with monumental and perhaps challenges that we couldn't overcome. So we're staying a little flexible for the time being.
Greg, over here on the
Greg Wyshynski, ESPN. The NBA has been talking about the potential of expanding their playoffs to a play-in game between the 8 and 9 seeds. Been talking about the potential of reseeding the Final Four, getting rid of the conference format for those. Have you given any thought to either of those scenarios? And has there been any discussion between yourself and the managers about changing the playoff format, perhaps when Seattle enters?
There's been no formal discussions of that. The fact is, we like what we have. We think it works well. The NBA may have its own reasons for going in a different direction, but based on the way our regular season and playoffs play out, it's incredibly intense, unpredictable, and exciting as a result of our competitive balance. So, no, we're not looking to make changes.
Chris over here, and then Emily over there.
Speaking of Seattle, Chris Daniels at King TV in Seattle.
Yes?
So you can probably guess what's coming. What's your thought on?
You already know you're getting a team.
Well, what are your thoughts on the status of the project, the team, and are you ready to release the Kraken or the Steelhead or the Sockeyes or any other?
Are those the names?
You tell me.
I'm not going to. When the Seattle NHL team has an announcement to make, and they're ready, I'm sure they'll tell you. They're doing great. David Bonderman and the ownership group and Todd Lewicki are just fantastic in everything they're doing. The building is proceeding. They're moving hundreds of thousands of pounds of dirt. They're dealing with the complexity of preserving the roof. I think I read it weighs something like 44 tons or some...
Million.
44 million tons. I don't know, how do you even weigh that? There's not a scale big enough. Their engagement in the community, both with placing ticket holders and getting business partners involved, has all been great. They're hiring a first-class organization. Everything is on track, and I know everybody's anxious for a name, but you're just going to have to be patient a little while longer. And I don't know what a little while means.
Hey, Gary.
Yes, Emily.
Emily Kaplan, ESPN. Kendall Coyne noted earlier that this is the third straight year that women have participated in the All-Star Game, and each year you've upped the involvement. I'm curious, can we now expect this to be a regular staple at this event?
Well, let's see how it goes tonight. I'm thrilled that we have an opportunity for the women's game to be demonstrated the way it will tonight. And I met with the players on both teams about an hour ago. We had a good chat. They're excited to be here. We're excited to have them. And the fact that we can shine using our light, a brighter light, on the women's game, I think is a positive for them, for the game, and for young girls watching and aspiring to do the same thing.
Okay, JJ Regan, NBC Sports Washington. Wayne Gretzky's goal record has been thought to be untouchable, and now with
Until now,
with Alex Ovechkin on the verge at 700 goals, it looks like he's going to make a run at it. What does it mean for the game to have a player go after a record as significant as that one?
It's incredible. It's exciting. It's a testament both to Wayne's record, that it seems to have been unapproachable until now, and it's a testament to Alex Ovechkin and his amazing career so far, and one that we hope continues for a number of years. So obviously his longevity, and he seems to be in great shape, will be a factor as to whether or not he can ultimately achieve that record. And we miss him and wish he was here, but we understand. No, we don't. I miss him.
Steve Weiner, Associated Press. Gary, what are the kind of the state of talks, CBA extension talks with the players, and does the fact that there's no urgency of an upcoming deadline change kind of the tenor of those talks?
Oh, I hope not. We principally, Bill Daly and I, have been anxious to re-engage. Players Association has taken a bit of a deep breath. I think that's more because they were doing their meetings with the teams. They go around and travel and meet with every team to make sure they have a sense of what's going on. My expectation is we'll re-engage shortly in a more energetic way than perhaps we've been in the last couple of months. But, and you know, with the press of everything else that's going on for them and for us, perhaps knowing there's more time than we had going into September, I wouldn't read anything into it other than we're both still focused on it. Yes.
Ken Campbell from the Hockey News. Gary, you've said on a number of occasions that it's that reading the tea leaves that likely the NHL won't be going to the 2022 games. Can you say with any certainty right now whether or not that will be the case?
I can't say that with certainty, not to give people false hope. I know the Players Association still maintains a strong preference for going. I know the IIHF still is focused on engaging with us, and I think even wants to have a meeting at some point in the not-too-distant future. From our standpoint, we believe, and our experience, both with going to 5 Olympics and then not going to Pyeongchang, tells us that going is extraordinarily disruptive to the season. And I won't take you through the litany of reasons why. You've all heard me say it. So I know it maintains itself as a priority for the Players Association. But having said that, we were very comfortable with not going to Korea.
Right over here.
Gary, Josh Clippard with Canadian Press. Connor McDavid's releasing a documentary tonight about his knee injury, and he wasn't necessarily forthright all summer. Now, we've noticed recently that NHL players and teams have been more forthright with injury news. What do you think of this whole situation?
I'm not sure I'm familiar with the documentary that you're talking about, and I don't know firsthand that he wasn't, to use your words, forthright, so I'm not sure that I can give you an answer to that, and I generally don't comment on individual player injuries. So that's a long-winded way of saying I don't have an answer for your question.
Gary, hi. Helene Elliott from the LA Times.
Yes.
My question relates to the one that Ken just asked, but I know that Rene Fossell said he wanted a decision from the NHL by August, and I'm wondering, do you think you will have some kind of resolution by then?
He also said last summer that he wanted an answer by December, and he didn't get one. So we're going to have to see. I actually think that the deadline is really more one that we would have to impose in terms of the logistics. My guess is if at a point in time we said we wanted to go and we could handle the timing of it, my guess is the IIHF could as well. That doesn't mean that I don't take Rene seriously, but as I said, he already gave us one deadline that came and went.
What would that deadline be for you?
I don't know. I'll know it when I see it, when we get there. Obviously, first and foremost, it has to do with releasing his schedule, right? That's the game changer one way or the other. So, you know.
Frank, and then we'll do one more.
Gary, Frank Saravalli,
Yes.
TSN. Publicly, a number of players have been critical of the Department of Player Safety over the last few weeks, including Matthew Perreault and Zach Cassian. Obviously, not every decision is going to make everyone happy, but just curious your reaction to hearing players critical of that.
Has there ever been a decision that the Department of Player Safety rendered that somebody wasn't unhappy with? I mean, George Paros and his group do an extraordinary job. They break down the plays, they analyze the situations more thoroughly than you can imagine, more thoroughly than I can imagine. And it's a very deliberate professional process. They have no axe to grind. There's an incredible amount of hockey knowledge in that department, and they render the decisions that they think are right, for the game, and that adhere to the standards and the rules that have to be applied. And some players are going to be unhappy when they get disciplined. Other players are going to be unhappy when other players don't get disciplined. But I think George is doing a terrific job.
Kyle on the right.
Hey, Gary, Kyle Bukowskis with Sportsnet. I know you were at the Willie O'Ree documentary screening earlier
Yes.
today, and one of the things that Kim Davis talked about there, just in terms of young players of representation at an NHL level. Obviously, the players are the big thing, but I'm wondering if more diversity amongst coaching staff or other areas of the organizations are important for the league here moving forward.
Absolutely, and that's why the forming a council and having subcommittees to energize our game at all levels is something that we are focused on and are prioritizing, because I believe, A, the game should be diverse and inclusive, no matter who you are and where you're from, but as importantly, I believe diversity is strength, and I think our game gets stronger the more diverse we are.
All right, thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Enjoy the weekend.